Hello everybody, so today I will talk about calculus. The topic today is about integration. So now I will show you how to answer. About number 1, we can do about factorization of number 2. And this one you got about 8. Next, we need to use about integration by substitution. So that means that's about trigonometric substitution. So I will put about s equals to the square root of number a secant of t. So if we put this one go in here, you got about a secant of t square, number a and number a. We can do about factorization. Secant of t square minus 1. After doing factorization, we can change for tan t square, and later that we simplify by ds. ds we got about the square root of number a secant of t tan t dt. So we put this one go in here. ds we change for this one. So this one we got about a secant of t square. Number 8, we can do about factorization. This one you got about 16. Secant of t square minus 1, we change for tan t square. We simplify tan t. The square root of a divided by 16. You got about the square root of number 2 over 8. Secant of t, we got about 1 over cosine t. This one we change for sine t over cosine t. We simplify cosine t, and now you got about dt over sine t. And this one you got about cosecant of t dt. And now this integration, we got about negative the square root of number 2 over a ln of the absolute value of cosecant of t plus cotan t, and we put about c. About t, that's about this one. So we divide both sides by the square root of 8. And we got about t equal to our secant of this one. So we put this one to replace for t. And this is the final answer. Now let's go to the next one. We need to use about integration by trigonometric substitution. So I will put about s equal to the square root of number 7 over 2 secant of t. So if we put this one go in here, you will go about 7 over 4 secant of t square. Number 4 and number 4, they will simplify. Number 7 and number 7, we can do about factorization. Secant of t square minus 1, we change for tan t square. And later that we simplify by ds. We do first the derivative for the both side. And we got about the square root of number 7 over 2 secant of t tan t dt. So we put this one go in here. The s we change for this one. So this one we got about 7 over 4 secant of t square. Number 4 we simplify. Number 7 and number 7 we can do about factorization. And this one we change for tan t square. The square root of this one, we will got about the square root of number 7 tan t. So we have the square root of number 7 tan t, and this one that will simplify, and you got about 1 over 2 secant of t dt. The integration of secant of t, we got about ln of the absolute value of secant of t plus tan t, and we put about c. About t, that's about this one. So we divide both sides by the square root of number 7 over 2. And we got about t equal to a secant of this one. So we put this one to replace 4t. We know that secant with our secant, you got about 2s over the square root of number 7. And this is the final answer. Question number 3. We need to use about integration by substitution. That's about trigonometric. So I will put about t equals to the square root of 5 over 3 tan s. So if we do first the derivative for the both sides, we got about the square root of number 5 over 3 secant of s square ds. So we put this one go in here. dt we change for this one. This one you got about 5 over 3 tan s square. Number 3 and number 3 we simplify. Number 5 and number 5 we can do about factorization. This one we change for secant of s square. The square root of number 5 secant of s square, you got about the square root of number 5 secant of s. So we simplify the square root of number 5 and secant of s on numerator and denominator. And we got about 1 over the square root of number 3 secant of s ds. The integration of this one, we will got about ln of the absolute value of secant of s plus tan s, and we put about c. About s, we return back to this one, so we divide both sides by this one, and we got about t multiplied by the square root of number 3 over 5, and we got about tan s, and we got about s equal to r tan of this one. So we put this one to replace for s. So we put this one going here, and this one going here. We know that tan with r tan, you will cut about this one. And this is the final answer. Now let's go to the next one. So I will put about integration by substitution. So I will put about m equal to the square root of number 5 over with the square root of number 8, because if we put this one go in here, we can simplify number 5 and number 8, and number 8 we can do about factorization, and this one we change for side t. So if we do first the derivative for the both side, we got about this one multiplied by cosine t dt. So we put this one go in here, and dm we change for this one, and this one you got about 40 sine t square. 40 divided by 5, you got about 8. Number 8, we can do about factorization. So we have 1 minus sine t square, we change for cosine t square. This is about identity. So we have the square root of 8 cosine t. We simplify on numerator and denominator, so you got about the square root of 5 dt, and we got about the square root of 5 t plus c. About t, we need to return back to here, so we divide both sides of the square root of 5 square root of 8. So I will put about the square root of 40, and we got about t equal to r sine of this one. So we put this one to replace for t. I will put the square root of number 5 go in here, and this is the final answer. Now let's go to the last one. So I will use about integration by trigonometric substitution. So I will put about u equals 2x plus 1 equals to a secant of t. So we do first the derivative for the both sides. You go about 2ds equal to a secant of t tan t dt. So we put this one go in here. ds we change for this one, but we have about number 2 in here, so we divide both sides by number 2, and we change this one in here. This one we got about a square secant of t square. A square and a square we can do about factorization. This one we change for tan t square. The square root of this one you got about a tan t. 8 and 8 over 2, you got about a square over 2, and I will put this one outside. Tan t and tan t, we can put about tan t square. tan t square we change for secant of t square minus 1. Secant of t square multiplied by secant of t and number 1 with secant of t. We got about secant of t to the power of 3 minus secant of t. Now I will concentrate about the integration of secant of t to the power of 3. This one we can write into secant of t square multiplied by secant of t. So we can use about integration by parts. So we got about u equal to secant of t du. You got about secant of t dt. Secant of t tan t dt. dv we got about secant of t square dt. So if we do this integration, you got about v equal to tan t. So we need to return back to this one. So secant of t, that's about u. So we got about u multiplied by v, and you got about secant of t tan t minus du multiplied by v. So we got about secant of t tan t square dt. Tan t square is about secant of t square minus 1. So we have secant of t multiplied by secant of t square and number 1. And we will got about secant of t to the power of 3 minus secant of t. So this one we will have two integrals in here. The first one, that's about the integration secant of t to the power of 3 dt. And the second one, that's about positive secant of t dt. And we know that everything in here equals to this integration. So I will put this one go to the right. So we sum two integrals together and you got about 2. Later that we divide both sides by number 2. And now we return back to this one. The integration of secant of t to the power of 3, we got about this one in here. Next, we minus the integral of secant of t. This one you got about negative 1 over 2. 1 over 2 minus 1, you got about negative 1 over 2. And now we got the final answer. The integration of this one, you got about ln of the absolute value of secant of t plus tan t. And we put about c in here. About t, we need to return back in here. So we divide both sides by 8. And we got about t equal to our secant of this one. So we put this one to replace for t. Next, secant with our secant, you got about this one. Similar for this one. And that is the final answer. This is the end. Thank you for watching.